it's very clear that the radical left has driven the Bible out of the classroom, which leads to a lack of understanding of American history.
It was not the radical left that drove the Bible out of public schools. It was the Supreme Court in the 1960s case Abington v. Schempp, and it was also, by extension, the Founding Fathers who did that. First of all, if you want to study American history, well, you wouldn't really get very far with the Bible. You would probably do better to study something like Plato's Republic. You would be better to study something like Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, as well as John Locke's philosophy, because that's what America was founded on by the Founding Fathers. Remember that the Founding Fathers lived in the 1700s. They were fully aware of things such as the 30 Years' War, which is only 100 years prior from that. The 30 Years' War was basically the culmination of the tensions between Protestants and Catholics following the Reformation. They were also, many of them, fully aware of what was going on in the colonies at the time, because you had some colonies, like Pennsylvania, that were run by Quakers. You had some colonies, like Maryland, who were run by Catholics, and you had other colonies that were run by Protestants. They very quickly found out that the best way to run things, specifically in Maryland, and that was later extended to all the other colonies, was to simply allow for religious freedom. It was the easiest way for people to live and coexist harmoniously, and for them to work together towards eventually fighting the British. One interesting fact, though, is that I often hear that pilgrims left for Virginia on the Mayflower because they were trying to find religious freedom from England. Well, that's not exactly true. They went to the Netherlands first, and they had religious freedom there, but they left for Virginia because they were worried about becoming too Dutch. The Founding Fathers were heavily influenced by philosophers such as John Locke, who during the Enlightenment argued that a government should be on earth. It is handling earthly matters. However, what you believe, what your religion is, that is just between you and God, not between you and the state. So he argued for separation of church and state. And the Founding Fathers largely agreed with this. They were very much against the divine right of kings. They thought it wasn't right that God chooses one man to rule over all the people, and that person is beyond reproach, and that person is beyond criticism. They believed in a government of the people, so that if a politician, or a king, or a monarch, or a president acts maliciously, then the people could vote to remove them from office. Notice the parallels between the Founding Fathers and the 1960 Supreme Court, also known as the Warren Court after Chief Justice Warren. The Founding Fathers were fully aware of the 30 Years' War, which influenced them towards advocating for separation of church and state. The Warren Court was very familiar with the indoctrination that happened in the Axis powers, like in Germany and Japan, and so they advocated for personal liberty as opposed to the state forcing you to believe something, because they were fully aware of the implications of when that happened in Germany and in Japan. And that's why in the decision, the court argued that it would be unfair for the state-sponsored public schools to force you to read Bible verses because it is against the Establishment Clause, and it's not right for the government to force you to believe or disbelieve in any type of religion at all. In practice, this makes sense too. For instance, if you're an evangelical Christian and your teacher is a Catholic or an atheist, how can you be sure that them reading the Bible to you does not push you towards drifting away from your religion? The government is placing influence on you and your beliefs, and that's unfair. Now, the same thing applies if you're Jewish and your teacher is Christian, or if you're a Muslim and your teacher is Christian.